Have you ever said something that you immediately regretted, maybe eating more than you should, or reacted in anger when you really knew better? I definitely have done that. As I often say, been there, done that, have the card to prove it. We've all done things like that. That's why self-control matters. It's a spiritual strength to say no when everything in you actually wants to say yes. In Galatians 5:22 and 23 we read, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such there is no law." Self-control may be the last on the list, but it is far from the least important. In many ways, it holds the other fruits together. Without it, love fades, joy slips, and gentleness disappears in the heat of the moment. So today, let's explore the battle, the basis, and the blessing of self-control, and how the Spirit helps us with a war within ourselves. First, we discuss the battle of self-control, the flesh versus the spirit. Self-control is a spiritual battle, and yet the battlefield is in your heart. Just before listing the fruit of the Spirit, Paul warns us about the works of the flesh, Galatians 5:19 through 21. Things like anger, envy, sexual immorality, drunkenness, they're all on the list. He then says, "And those who are Christ have crucified the flesh with the passions and desires," Galatians 5:24. The flesh wants to lead, but the Spirit must rule. Self-control is not just about willpower, it's actually about spiritual power. It's a deliberate choice to let God lead and not your impulses. Romans chapter 7 verses 22 and 23 describe the war as this: "I delight in the law of God, but I see another law bringing me into captivity." Have you ever felt that struggle? That pull toward what you know isn't right? The first step toward doing what is right brings you victory. It's about recognizing the battle and choosing the daily walk with the Spirit. Second, we notice the basis of self-control, the example of Jesus. No one ever modeled self-control better than Jesus. In the wilderness, after 40 days of fasting, he resisted every temptation that Satan threw at him, Matthew chapter 4. In the Garden of Gethsemane, knowing the cross awaited him, he prayed, "Not my will, but yours be done," Luke 22:42. And on the cross, he could have called down 12 legions of angels, Matthew 26:53, but he stayed silent. He stayed silent, submissive for our sake. That's self-control. Not weakness, but divine restraint. He had power, but he used it only for God's will. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 23, we read this: "For when he was reviled, he did not revile in return, but he committed himself to him," watch this, "who judges righteously." If we are to follow him, we must learn to follow his example, dying to self so the Spirit may reign in us. And then here in the third place, the blessing of self-control, freedom, focus, and fruitfulness. Here's the irony. Self-control does not limit your freedom. It actually protects it. In Proverbs 25:28 we read, "For whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls." Without self-control, we are vulnerable, open to every temptation, every emotion, and every outburst. But with it, we are protected, guarded, and steady. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 9:25-27, "Everyone who competes for a prize is temperate in all things." He said, "I discipline my body and bring it into subjection." You see, athletes train their bodies, and Christians must train their hearts. And as a result, we have freedom from bondage. We're able to then better focus on God and his will above everything else. You see, this fruit of the Spirit, self-control, it empowers us to say no to lust, no to bitterness, and no to selfishness. But at the same time allows us to say yes to holiness, yes to patience, and yes to all things spiritual. So let's summarize all this. The battle of self-control, it is real. The flesh pulls one way and the Spirit another. We must choose daily who will lead. The basis of self-control is Jesus. He modeled what it means to live a submissive life that was not based on feelings, but based on what the Father desired. And the blessing of self-control, it's freedom. It protects our lives, our focus, and our purpose, and allows us to produce a lasting fruit. The fruit of the Spirit is self-control, the power by God's grace to say no to the flesh, but yes to the Spirit. So ask yourself, what area in my life feels out of control? Am I letting God lead or my desires? And what step can I take today to surrender the battle to Him? Let the Spirit grow this fruit in you. And when He does, you will walk in freedom, purpose, and peace.